So Jim at Bronzeville Comics tagged me in a challenge. Yes, a challenge. The challenge was to show my top 10 Bronze Age comics. So I went looking and I picked out 10. Stay tuned for the video. Anachronic. Hi comic book fans, I'm Joe and welcome to Anachronic Comics. So as I mentioned, Jim at Bronzeville Comics tagged me something that I remember was kind of common maybe a few years ago, like your top 50 comics and some other type of descriptions, but haven't seen one in a while. But he did tag me a few weeks ago, and I am to show my top 10 Bronze Age comic books. Now, I really am a Silver Age guy. And as I got into college and thereafter, I still bought comics now and then. So I do have Bronze Age comics, but not a whole lot of them. But when I went through and I looked at them, I said, wow, I got some pretty good ones. So before we get going on it, one of the issues was, what is the Bronze Age? And there's a lot of controversy with respect to that. So I looked on different websites, and some people say 1970, 1972. So I just made it very simple for myself. For this video, at least, I'm looking at books that came out in the 1970s and one that came out in 1980. And so I'm categorizing that for this video as the Bronze Age. Now, again, these are top 10, and I have some, like Superman 233 and others that may be worth some money and that you've seen quite a few times. I've even showed them on this channel. But this top 10, and I'm putting quotes around there because they're top 10 because I just like them, you know? And when I went through some that I had, I said, gee, this is good. Or maybe I have a story about it. Or there's one that I didn't know that I had. I guess I did it sometime, but not recently. So I'm going to show that off and tell you a little bit about that one. So the first one I want to start off with is Amazing Spider-Man 110. Now, why Amazing Spider-Man 110? Well, you guys know Gibbon Gang. To be part of Reggie's Gibbon Gang, you have to have a copy of Spider-Man 110, the first appearance of the Gibbon, okay? And that first appearance of the Gibbon gives you entree into the Gibbon Gang. And that's all it is. There's no special thing about it other than you have bragging rights for it, all right? So this Spider-Man 110 is not the only one that I have. I have, I think, 2 more raw copies, and I have a graded copy. I forget what it is. It's something like around an 8.5 or something along those lines. So I definitely want to show this because it means something to me. All right, Gibbon Gang, Spider-Man 110. Let me get my glasses on so I could see better. The next one, again, is one that I didn't realize that I had, and it's kind of interesting. It's Marvel Feature presents the astonishing Ant-Man, and it's number 4 of Marvel Features. There you go. All right. And the interesting about this was, I believe this is before Ant-Man got his own comic book. And starting with this number 4, he took over as the lead in this book. And I think it lasted until about number 10. So in some ways, this is the first lead that Ant-Man had. At least I believe so. In Marvel Comics. So it's got some, I guess, value to it. But to me, it was just one when I looked at it, I said, oh, this is an interesting book. And when I looked it up, I said, oh, it's even more interesting than I thought. So we have Marvel Feature number 4, where Ant-Man takes the lead for about 7 issues. Now, this one was not part of my collection originally, but, you know, going around, I start to find some things that I like. And so I did manage to pick up from January of 1977, Ms. Marvel number 1, the first appearance of Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel before she became Captain Marvel. And so I picked this out because the Marvels movie is out now, and it just kind of caught my attention when I was looking through the box and just thought it was a good one to show in my top 10. And I guess you're seeing here, I'm showing Marvel one. People say, oh, you're a DC guy. So I think people expect to see old DC stuff. Well, the first 4, I think, are Marvel. And I believe the last Marvel out of the top 10 is The Savage She-Hulk #1. All right, and this is from February of 1980. All right, and this is one again that I also picked up, and I believe I also have a graded copy of this one somewhere in the nines, but I forget exactly what it is. So Savage She-Hulk #1, the first appearance of She-Hulk. All right, and Stan Lee proudly presents it. All right, this is a pretty neat copy. It's not bad. Could use a cleaning, of course, but it's a #1 collector item, guys. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I picked out some Marvel comics, and so those are 4 that I got. Now the next one just means something to me because I love the old pulp characters. I'm a big Doc Savage fan. I do like Conan as well. All right. And one that I have some old stuff on is The Shadow. And Shadow's been published by a lot of different publishers, comic books. But this is the first DC issue of The Shadow. Okay, so this is the first DC appearance of The Shadow from 1973. It was a 12-issue series, and I did buy all 12 issues back in the day. One interesting thing about this is I bought multiple issues of #1, so I was not really a speculator, but even back there in 1973, I was thinking, well, this might be worth some money in the future. And is it worth big money? No. Is it worth some? Yeah, if it's graded at a high grade, it's worth a little bit of money. And so I've given some away. I do have some. This one is in pretty decent shape, actually, but it's got some issues, obviously. So I don't know that I have any 9/8, but maybe I'll look through the ones that I do have, and maybe have about 4 or 5 of them left, and see if there's one that might be worth sending in to be graded. Now, the next one was one that I was looking for a while because I didn't know it existed. And, being involved in comics and getting involved in YouTube, I heard about this book. And, being basically a child of the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of racial strife. And there were issues, especially in the 1960s, going towards the end of the 1960s, where there was a lot of demonstrations. There was a lot of things going on in New York City, especially in black neighborhoods. There were buildings that burned down. I mean, it was just not a good time. And so when I heard about this book, I wanted to pick it up. It's from 1970, and it's Lois Lane #106. All right, you probably heard about this one. I Am Curious Black, where Lois thinks she can get a Pulitzer Prize by going into a black neighborhood and interviewing people about the issues that they have. But when she goes to the black neighborhood, because she's white, nobody wants to speak to her. And there are people that are very much against white people. So she goes to Superman, and there was a machine from Krypton that she used to make herself black for 24 hours. And when she does that, she finds out about the other side, about prejudice against black people. Now, there's a lot of kind of cringy things in this book, from the standpoint of, racial relationships. Some stereotypical type of things are in here. But the author, Kanigher, was trying to do the right thing. I mean, he was trying to show some issues that were going on, and he was using Lois and to a lesser extent Superman to show what those issues were. But the stereotypes just kind of jump out at you, and a lot of people indicate that it's kind of cringeworthy. But you have to think back to when this came out in 1970 and what was going on back then. And if you understood what was going on back then, you could see that at least it was a good attempt. Looking at it now in 2023, yeah, you say, but that's about a lot of things, right? And you have to look at things in an historical perspective. And from an historical perspective, it really isn't that bad. And that the author was trying to show something, was trying to do something to show that, the racial strife, you have to look at it from both sides and really get to know the other side. And if you do, I think we will get along better. So that's Lois Lane number 106 from 1970. I am Curious Black. Uh, Even the title has a lot of connotations, but back then, and I won't get into it right now, but if you want to know, I'll let you know one-on-one. Okay, now the next comic book is one that I found in a box that was stored in my basement for 22 years. And I was cleaning out the basement. When I opened it up, I said, wow, look at all these comic books. Obviously, I must have known I had them because we moved here in 1999, and that was one of the moving boxes. But it was stored away with other boxes in the basement, and I'd forgotten about it for 22 years. But when I opened it up, I saw this comic along with others, and I'll put a link to this video in case you want to take a look at it. But here it is. It is the reintroduction of Twoface, and this was from 1971. Now, if you take a look on some places, it says, oh, the reintroduction of Twoface in the Silver Age and stuff. Well, for my purposes, 1971 is the Bronze Age, okay? And it was his first appearance since 1954. So he was out of circulation for a while. And it's, again, a great find for me. And it's one that I think I'm going to work on a bit because it does have a spine roll. Oops, looking at the wrong side. It does have a spine roll here. And if you take a look at it, you can see there's the staple, and there's the other staple that's there. But the rest of it is not bad. Obviously needs a cleaning. It's got a few blunted corners, but might be one worthwhile to send in to be graded once it's fixed. Okay. So the next one was a comic book that, again, I didn't buy back in the day, but one that I really wanted. But I didn't want to spend, I don't know, maybe I'm a cheapskate, okay? I don't like spending a lot of money on comics. I'd rather get a comic in a low grade that's complete so that I could say that I have it. All right. I'm not one of those type of guys that says, oh, I've got a graded copy of 8.0. I want to improve it to a 9.8 or get it up. That means nothing to me because I'm not looking at this in terms of selling for cash. I don't mind trying to get, improving a comic book, sending it in to be graded, and then, getting a graded comic book, which is worth a lot more than the raw comic book. That's what I did with the first appearance of Batgirl from Detective Comics, whatever the number is, I can't remember offhand. Right, as a raw comic book, it was probably worth about $350. Nice. But when it got graded, it came back as a 6.5. It's worth about $1,200. So that I will do, So I'm going to do it with this one too. This was Green Lantern number 87, the first appearance of John Stewart as a Green Lantern, and the second appearance of Guy Gardner. I'd like to get the first appearance, which is I think was the issue just before this, so I'll be looking for one. So again, this is one that had some issues, but I got it at a good price. Again, this one has a wrap, but it looks like, I don't know if it's so much of a spine problem because if you take a look, and I can't really show it in here, but if you take a look really closely, the staples look like they're pretty much in the right place. So it might have been a miswrap more than a spine issue in here. But again, it's still a cool comic, and it does need to have a cleaning, which I will do. And if I can check out the spine issue and feel that I can press it and improve it, this might be another one that I might send in to be graded. Now, the next two, I think, are significant because you guys know I really love Neil Adams art. I spoke to him a number of times at New York Comic Con, and just one of my favorites. I have two videos out that show his top, in my view, Batman covers and his top Superman covers. And again, I'll link those at the end as well, so you can take a look at them if you want to. The first one is one that I think is one of my favorites, only because it's been copied so many times, even by Neil himself. But it's just a tremendous Batman cover, And this is Batman number 241. All right. And the other interesting thing about this, I mean, look at that Batman. Isn't that terrific? The other interesting thing about this is the first appearance of the new Batman trade head here, where he separated Bat and Man, all right, and had a new kind of head to it. Neil Adams gets some credit for this. Now, again, this is similar. If you look at the old Batman trades, you see that they were similar with the Bat and the Man separated before it became one word, all right? So that's nothing new, but having it on the black with the new head and going back to it, and this lasted, until like number 280 something or other. So it lasted a very long time, all right? And so it's significant for that reason, in that the masthead changed from Batman one word to Batman with a new, I think, Neil Adams head there, which is really, really cool. All right. So this was Batman number 241 with the new trade at the top. Number 9, we're up to number 9. Number 9 is also a Neil Adams book, one that is super terrific. I mentioned it in a recent video as well. I took it out of the bag and board and I put it in a top loader, and you'll see why in a minute. And this is Superman number 252. It's a DC Super Spectacular number 13, called with Superman with the World's Greatest Flying Heroes. Okay, there we go. The reason I put it in this is if I flip it around, you'll see square bound, and it's a wraparound cover with more flying heroes here. All right, really, really terrific. And this particular Superman that you see here was used by Metropolis, Illinois, for their welcome sign, where they have "Welcome to Superman's home," and they used this as the model for it. So a really terrific book. Again, a square-bound book, actually in pretty decent shape, that I had as a kid. And the interesting about this one is that when it came, it's from 1973. Okay, I just wanted to check to make sure. When it came, as opposed to being in those folded mailers, it came in a flat mailer, which is why it's in pretty decent shape right here. So this was number 9, another Neil Adams beautiful cover. Now, the last one, number 10, is as I was going through a box with comics that I had not, from my youth, that I had not sorted out yet, though I'd looked through them and so forth. I then saw that I had some books that were still in the mailers. So I decided, let me look and see what's in the mailer. And this was in the mailer. And this does not have a subscription crease. Excuse me, but it does have some subscription issues, but not bad. So another one that I might work on. So this one is the Demon number 1, some Jack Kirby goodness. It's got some issues here. All right, you see along the top. And why is that? Okay, you see it missing a little piece, which I actually have the piece here. But, I mean, there's not much I could do with it. All right, so right along the top, the rest of it, even the bottom, is not in bad shape. A little issue over here at the bottom. And why is that? Well, you could see that it was folded. All right, and I said it doesn't have a subscription crease. It doesn't. It's beautiful over here. All right, but when it was in those folded brown wrappers, a lot of times the top or the bottom would stick out. All right, and so it would go through the mail system and all that, and that's what happened here. And it's unfortunate because the top is very delicate. All right, and when I took it out, this little piece came out, which is right here. There you go. You can see it. All right. But yet, it's in pretty good shape, and it's probably a comic book worth preserving. So I'm going to take a look at it, do a dirty grading on it, and make a decision as to whether or not I will send this in. But I was happy to find it anyway. I didn't realize that I had this. Number 1. I have some New Gods, and I got Mr. Miracle from that time. I don't know if I have any number 1s, so I'm going to take a look and see if I have some number 1s, and hopefully maybe they don't have the same issues that this one does. So, thank you, Jim, for Bronzeville Comics, for challenging me to list my top 10 Bronze Age comics, because it helped me find some that I didn't even know or remember, at least, that I had. All right. So again, thanks for watching, guys. If you like these type of videos, please subscribe. Click the little bell so you know when I post them. And we have some live shows that are coming up. We have an Expresso mail call where a bunch of my pals get together. We show comic books that we just got, and they come back. They come up usually around the middle of the month. And we have the comic book crowd at the end of each month on Friday. And now we started with the Anachronic College of Comic Book Knowledge. And there is a link in the description below if you want to try to win some money for a favorite charity of yours and show your knowledge on a particular subject that you pick. Click on that link, fill out the form, and send it in to me. I appreciate it, guys. Be well, and I'll see you soon.